place that we're about to drive through here not too long from now. And they established the communities of Colorado City, Arizona, and present-day Fredonia, Arizona. And that was the last ever place in the United States where they had polygamy. And I'm going to let that topic die right there. But yes, once in a while we get somebody who asked, now were they the ones with multiple wives? Yes, they were, but it ended in the year 1890. So, the Church of Latter-day Saints officially began to control the state government in 1896. Now, Utah is a bit different from the surrounding states. If you notice, a lot of the cities here in Utah are very, very clean. So, St. George, Hurricane, Salt Lake City, Ogden, Utah, and all the surrounding suburbs are very clean places. And one thing that you notice in Utah, in the major cities, is that they're very clean and there's not very many homeless people at all. Now, it's not a crime to be homeless by any means. It's a rather unfortunate circumstance. But in Utah, they have pretty strong laws against things like vagrancy. So, you're not going to see very many homeless people here in Utah. And if they are here, they quickly get put in shelters. So that's kind of how that works. Also, Utah has some very strong laws in general. So, for example, crimes against people like assault, sexual assault, battery have very strong laws. So if you commit a crime here in Utah, you can expect some serious jail time to go along with it. So here's one thing about Utah that is pretty strict, okay? Now, the big crime, murder, okay? There are very, very few murders that happen here in the entire state of Utah. And Utah is an absolutely enormous state, okay? So that's saying something. The people here are very well behaved and they're very disciplined. If you think about the Las Vegas area, they average about a murder a night, okay? That's back in Las Vegas. Now Utah, you don't get a murder that often, okay? But the laws that concern murder go something like this. So if you get convicted of murder and you get what is called capital punishment, meaning the death penalty, okay? They do something unique, all right? Now, there's a lot of states in the United States that do not have the death penalty. The ones that do usually execute you by means of what is called lethal injection, where they use sodium chloride or sodium thiopentate and potassium chloride to stop your heart. Now, Texas has a thing called Old Sparky, where they pass electricity through your body until you're dead, otherwise known as the electric chair, guys. So that's Texas. If you were to go to San Quentin, California, they used to have, and in fact, I'm not sure if they still have it or not, but they had what is called the gas chamber, where you would sit there and they would simply gas you to death. So that was California, the gas chamber, guys. Now, Washington State and New Hampshire currently have the gallows pole still. So they go medieval on you if you commit a capital offense such as murder, okay? Now let's go back to Utah over here, guys. Utah doesn't have the electric chair. They don't have lethal injection, they don't have the gas chamber, and they don't have the gallows pole. If you get convicted and sentenced to death here in Utah, they shoot you to death, okay? You get sentenced to what is called the firing squad. So, people have actually been shot to death by a firing squad here in Utah, by the state government. So, if that's a deterrence, guys, you can probably imagine why there's not very many murders here in Utah. And it comes from the majority of the Utah being very religious. So, that's kind of how that works. So right now, we're about 15 minutes away from our break over here at a place called Bees Marketplace. And we'll be about maybe 20 minutes there, and then it'll give us a chance to grab coffee and snacks and use a real restroom. Okay, guys, we'll go ahead and stop right over here. And I said 15 minutes because I was thinking about somewhere else. It's still early, pardon me. But yeah, so we'll do about 25 minutes here just to make sure that everybody gets back on time. Okay, guys. It's also a very interesting place too. When I find out exactly what is so interesting about it, I'll let you know. But for the most part, I guess if I was to say there was anything interesting about the town, it's the fact that it looks kind of untouched from the majority of the 20th century. All the buildings here kind of go back to maybe the 1950s and before. It certainly doesn't have that mass-produced sort of feel that you get in Las Vegas. So I guess if I had something interesting and positive to say about Fredonia here, I'd probably say that. Now right here is where Arizona and Utah touch. So by the time we get to the other side of Fredonia, we're going to be in a brand new city and a brand new state. Well, technically we've already been to Utah, but what we do is we go in and out of both Arizona and Utah all the way to Horseshoe Bend and Antelope. And right now we're just passing from Arizona into Utah once again. One thing that's particularly interesting about the laws in Arizona versus the laws in Utah is that in Utah it is very difficult to get a liquor license. And obviously, we all know that's due to the strong religious heritage Utah has always had. But what's interesting to point out is that right before the state line, you can see a whole bunch of bars and a whole bunch of signs advertising liquor and places to drink. Because everybody that likes to drink in Utah, that lives near the state line of Arizona, simply goes over the state line of Arizona to drink. Because in Utah, it's difficult to get liquor certain times of the day because they're only allowed to sell it at certain times, and they're only allowed to sell a certain amount. And if you happen to own a bar, you can only have your bar in a certain location in town. It cannot be near any churches or anything like that. Interesting, huh? Maybe the temptation would be too strong, right? The Mormons are very strict with the way they view substances and what they eat. For example, the Mormons actually do not ingest anything with caffeine. So if they drink any kind of coffee, it has to be decaf. And if they drink any kind of soda, it can't be a caffeinated soda like Coca-Cola or root beer. So it has to be something that doesn't have caffeine. They believe caffeine is a psychoactive substance, and it moves them a little bit further from the spiritual realm. So yeah, the LDS Church doesn't have any participation with any kind of soft drinks that contain caffeine. So like I just mentioned, we are right here on the state line of Arizona, Utah, and you can already see on the left-hand side, there's a couple of bars here. So at least we know where to stop on the way back, right? Okay.
This is mine. No, kani siya chargeable Bluetooth kind of kuan. Na siya mura gamay. No, even when I open it, I don't know. That's what I said. I just told you. This one was kusog ni ate. Yeah. Ikaw, nakatulog, manda ka.
Okay guys, so like I said, as soon as we pass that state line, we're going to be changing states and changing cities. So welcome to Kanab, Utah. Now Kanab actually is an interesting place, okay? And I'll tell you why it's so interesting for. So Kanab began in the year 1870 when 12 families settled the area for the purpose of setting up a base for the Church of Latter-day Saints and spreading southward into Utah. Now, from the time 1870 up until the 1940s, it was a small farming community. Not very much going on here, but in the 1950s, Kanab actually got the nickname Utah's Hollywood. And well, I don't see any busy freeways here. I don't see any Hollywood sign. I don't see any pretentious people around here, do I? But the reason why they call Kanab Utah's Hollywood is because they've had over 120 movies and film series filmed here in Kanab. Now, if you kind of look around the city, you could kind of see that Kanab would be the absolute perfect place to film a Western. And a whole bunch of Westerns and Western film series have been filmed right here in Kanab. As a matter of fact, the old movie sets are actually still around to this day. So you can actually take tours of the movie sets that were around when they were filming movies like Lassie or Gunsmoke, or here's a popular one, The Last Ever Movie, to showcase both Marilyn Monroe and Clark Gable. This movie was called The Misfits, and it was shot in the year 1961, right over here in Kanab. And like I said, it was the last ever movie for Marilyn Monroe and Clark Gable. Very coincidental. So, Kanab does have a lot of deep history concerning celebrities and a lot of film sets around here to this day. So, if you ever find your way back to Kanab, you can actually get some tours of these film sets. So, very interesting place.
Uy, sama na yung mga neon sa Las Vegas. Oh yeah, pinakumpuan.
Now we have a hockey team here in the desert. They're called the Vegas Golden Knights. You're going to see where they play up here on the left-hand side. Coming up here, it's called T-Mobile Arena.
T-Mobile Arena.
T-Mobile Arena.
It does, right?
Raiders. Las Vegas Raiders.
Oh, that one. $375 million. 2016.
Bago man siya. Las Vegas Raiders.
Is Excalibur. That's the castle.
They opened up in 1960. Las Vegas
The
Raiders.
largest hotel in the world.
The largest hotel in the world.
Excalibur.
I went there like we were watching that.
Now it's considered the dirtiest hotel on the show.
No, considered the dirtiest.
30% of the people complain about it. It's the dirtiest. The right is where they play. That's where the Las Vegas Raiders. The game will be tomorrow, Kansas City and the Raiders. One of the Raiders gets murdered. One
MGM may tapos na giyaan.
terror. It's like there's water. It's like it does spoils that a little bit, but yeah, you can still kind of see it. It's been dry a really, really long time.
Lake siya pero dry siya.
Now, on the other side of this hill, the 7 magic mountains are going to start to be visible. You'll start to see them here in the distance. They're these bright, colorful stacks of rocks. Sitting there since 2016.
2016
But only going to be here
guys.
until 2026. Because they're going to move them up to Reno.
Nagkakaptos din eh.
I like art. This is the stretch. That's art. It's good pictures. We like taking pictures. Where'd you go and get that? Oh, way out there in the middle of nowhere. Okay, there's a little story behind it. I don't know. Maybe I've just been out here too much. But I still love the dam rather than that place too much. There's your 7 magic.
Oh, this one there, it's not that.
There's 7 of them.
Dili ang pure man yan.
Huh?
It's magic. I bring so
Ang
many
wonder
people out
din
here.
na.
Tawag na siya kaya ang view niya.
Ang pure din na.
Maybe
Only
mountains
6.
around. Maybe we better be
7
7
na sila?
magic columns. I would have done the 7 magic shish kebabs.
Shish kebab.
People come out here taking pictures of giant shish kebabs. At least we know what we're getting into.
They just call it because the view is
Why is it magic?
Because it's magic how many people out here.
It's desert and
That's true.
there's a lot of
It's
people.
about 20 minutes.
Oh, may activity sa San Diego. 4 hours naman. Mararag katong-atong gadto.
So kung may dagan, let's do it. Pura, mapukalay na rin. Grand Canyon.
Process na good no.
May uban nga, dili masaya sa imong sistema. Or na tayo may na-contaminate ang bats sa tubig.
Plastic din ang sudlanan. Guys, we can view 7 magic mountains going to Overnight.
Sa racing car na.
Balik na sa kuhagi? Yes.
Huli na ta.
Si Hooper.
Ikasign pa kung sa Davos. I don't know, malabang daw. Speed Vegas. Ayun na tayo na video. Sa
Oh, Las Vegas.
Lagi ni Uyam di Dexter rin. Apil magkuha. Uyam di Dexter.
Di ra kay Chada ang katungkuan sa ako ang from my phone.
Kamaya kasi Excalibur. Uy, ako may hotel na. Magamit yun na. Inana itong logo sa hotel. So, nindot sa nga logo ko yan. Ito eh, magalian. Maga.
M-Hotel na?
M-Hotel. Magalian is hotel. Nindot yung logo. Inana itong pagkamabot ang logo sa ito.
Nagalang plano.
Oh, pwede. Maga lagi. Short for Magallanes. Magallanes. Isla ba sa kumingog ngano mo Republika mo dili man may Maga Magallanes na siya. Mo ba buot? Pero mo presidente si Trump.
Matripan niya ang
Buot mo Maga Magallanes mo.
Maga.
Ano ba tayo resort ang spa dito?
Ikuan lang
M-Hotel.
Maga.
Lagi Maga.
M na lang ulit ko ta.
Lagi ka na lagi.
Oh, totoo.
Makarwas ta? Makarwas.
Ano pagkasulida?
Ano pagkasulida siya?
Yeah, ko ta.
All right, there's the Hoover Dam, right?
Or like, huh?
We're just here if anybody needs to use the restroom.
Good.
Ah, very good. Very nice.
We're about 45 minutes away from the
Layo man gud.
Ah, okay.
Gusto na dapat ng hotel, Maga Hotel. M-Hotel.
or a bag of chips or something. You need to
Sure.
help yourself.
Duple na ganun niya. Not sure that papay ko lang.
Ah, wala kay papay.
Wala lang papay, wala ka.
Wala lang wings.
Wala wings, so
Wala wings. Wala tong mga dag.
Mao na papay.
Wala
Dili,
legs.
dugay mo gud maluto niya dili daghang tao. Mana wa nila gi-offer. Wings ra. Ala teo. Papay nga
Dili
lay.
lagi ni siya kay dili para.
Forward nyo na tubangan, guys.
Diyan di kang kaon ya.
Ikaw ko rin nakapag-push mo buffet.
Dili ni mo sa pawan.
Yeah.
Dali pa yung kaon kay maadto ko sa oras. So, kinahot ko dito ako to. So,
Kami ani, kapira dito ng mga...
ang lang gusto na sa large.
Papili pa away.
Ang pamahaw kay kuan.
Kami lang pancake. $50. Bayad naman ko ato 2 weeks.
Sa pila ilang buffet?
Bayad ako daan.
Okay. Sa Treasure Island, sa Treasure Island 55.
Yeah. Pero, good reviews na weekend. For
Wala
brunch.
naman, pugod sa naman ang presyo.
Brunch and brunch.
Maugyo.
Dagan kayo.
Ato na lang ko sa 20.
Dagan kayo.
Ganahan ka mga karni karne, pugod sa. Nagbigas.
Wala ako diri yung
Bakanal.
On the last Sunday, Bacanal and when muna nag-grabe ka. Muna ka mahal. Lalo ka mga food.
Ako dito ako kinahata ng steak.
Steak pala.
Yan,
Bakanal
nahata
din,
ng steak
bakanal.
sa bahay.
So, then sa brunch, weekend food. Ang M daw, lamit po daw lang. Pero mahal $100.
Umaga.
Pero mga steak lobster. Kilala ko yung tawag ilang sobra, pinapura na. Shrimp brown.
Patulad nila ang lobster dito.
Ang lamig na seafood sa way.
Pwede sa kaluto man.
Hindi, kaya di sa Bacanal steam naman dito, kaya nakamay ka dyan.
Duha man dito pero mas maulag halin itong iluto kaysa kanong steam ra. Steam mo kayo makuha.
Ang
Tapang man.
oyster sa winter, lamig mo ito, ganahan yung price.
Lamig diha ako. Ay katyon.
Dapat yung oyster dito sa Bacanal?
Katyon. Mato din mo gikuha. Ano gikaon?
Lamig.
Oyster, wala. Wala ko sa oyster. Nalay Chinese, naghalis siya.
Going to Overlock.
Sa Tuaba, pero fiesta ba?
Napakala.
Ang ganahan nga dessert, ito rin yung murag therapy. So, ito nga itong brashana, nalibutang sa... Ito ganahan nyo.
Ako na, tira mo. Gagagmay. Gagagmay lagi.
Iya dong mo. Iya.
Start.
Indoor.
Start na no? Lagay din niya.
I-open mo ka big yan. Or masun ko ka na slot ng dito.
Townhouse, country house, townhouse.
Townhouse.
California.
Townhouse.
Sa ninyo lang sa balay. Ako classmate. Marami ka lang reunion ka.
Sini niya na ibalay dito.
So, batch me ninyo te.
Yeah. Yung haraman mes eh. Kapit. Kapit si man. Hindi, batch for me.
Wala direct.
Ito na rin yan sa West. Pagkalong na sa Koskas, kasi pangayuan.
Nasa hospital kasi nila niya.
Naka-Koskas siya first year. May kasi Koskas, right? Gusto lagi yung mayor sa Malokan po. Ang binuha ka sa mayor to. So, paano niya mas parang yung mayor dito?
Pero pwede sila kapag sa buhay politiko nila tanong.
Yeah, wala.
Parang di palit na ganun. Hindi na mawala ng mga kwanda din sa ganun. Si Uman niya, nice chance.
Yeah, kaya kung naman.
Bata
Rebuild man siya.
Bata
Rebuild siya,
pa siya.
no? Wala siyang
Ay,
gagawin.
siya. Siyempre, okay ko hantod. Magulat sa niya mamatay. Hindi man po masunod doon yung anak.
Yan, ito na.
So, mamatay ako sa nila. May diling suod si Winters versus
Ah, wala.
Cabalero. Ay, mabulat sa Uman niya.
Yeah, correct. Chance.
Ambot, ganahan ko sa Uman niya. Amigo nila kaya para ma-vice mayor siya. Pero ako, dili ko. Magulat ako.
Guys, gablog biya ko.
Dato, kita siya support niya na.
Magulat naman sa Chico. So, yun.
Wala nakadutong.
Gusto man siyang mag-bike niya po. Kung si Kuan niya may magkuhan
Wala
niya.
niya kung power niya.
Iya magkuhan si Kuan niya. Hinday ang niya. Tawag kayo. Sige lang.
Basta amigo lang sila.
Yeah, kasi.
Pero basilyo niya po siya. Tabang. Kung si Hinday niya, kung sugot ko.
Bago pa man siya, kung siya lang, kung ano niya tulog ka tayo.
Dili man si Glenn.
Ako, nag-stop lang siya.
Yung si Bebe, dili si Glenn.
Proud of siya.
Lagi na daw na niya kita karon.
At now, bago pa man siya.
Yeah.
Sa tinuod ng importante na siya. Mag-vlog-vlog na.
Guys, sabi
kanan, tao. Tao mo.
Ayun po.
Dili ka, pero di man mo malikayan tanan kani kay istorya.
Red circuits. So our government had realized pretty early on, if we were ever going to settle into this area, we needed to get the Colorado River under control. So controlling the river is the first reason we built it. The second was the hydroelectricity, the drinking water that we get. But the third reason, which usually for a lot of us Americans is the number one reason, we were stuck in the middle of a Great Depression, needed to kickstart the economy and get America back to work. And really, what better way to do that than a government-funded construction project? Now, they originally thought that this project was going to last 7 years. It was slated for a 7-year project. But these guys didn't really like the idea of 7 years, so they got done in just 4.5. From 1931 to 1935, they built the dam. And there's a few reasons why they were able to finish ahead of schedule. The main reason, Boulder City, the town that built the dam, is one of only 2 cities in the entire state of Nevada that still to this day does not allow gambling. Right? So no casinos, no distractions of gambling by these guys who work. There is a casino out there now that's not supposed to be. It showed up in 2015. We'll talk about him when we're out there. There's a second reason they got done ahead of schedule. Boulder City was a dry county all the way up until 1969. That means there was no legal consumption of alcohol all the way up until 69. And when you think about it, even today, drinking and gambling, those can stunt a lot of our productivity. Those can make sense. For the third, it seems like a bit of a stretch. But at times, with things considered, no drinking, no gambling, no TV, no sports, history books want us to believe if they were to allow prostitution into the mix, these guys just couldn't get anything done out there. Right? Prostitution definitely sounds kind of odd, but that's what the history books want us to believe. Right? No drinking, no gambling, no women. Guys would finish jobs 2 years ahead of schedule. Now, typically, there were 2 types of job duties. You could work above ground, where you had a 12-hour shift with exactly 0 breaks, right? It was 12 hours straight, no breaks. You made about $4 a day. And if you were here during the summer, temperatures were 120, right? 120 degrees. The first year they were out here, that's what it was. Now, if you didn't want to work up in the sun, you could work below ground, down there where they were doing the blasting. It was only an 8-hour shift, 8 hours, no breaks, 8 hours straight. You made $3 a day, $3 a day. And then temperatures down there got up to 140, maybe even 150 degrees. Guys would pass out from things like heat exhaustion. They would just drag them up top, throw water in their face, and then give them 15 minutes to wake up and keep their job. And if they didn't come to in those 15 minutes, well, they didn't even care about it because they had a line of people just waiting for the opportunity. Yeah, they had a line of people waiting for work. It sounds kind of crazy nowadays, people have line for work. But it was because originally they had asked for 5,000 employees. They thought they could get it done with 5,000. We were sitting in the middle of a Great Depression, so over 42,000 showed up looking for work. And then out of that 42,000, over 22,000 ended up finding employment because the conditions were so tough. Right? We had out-of-work Americans, could have been truck drivers, deli workers, librarians, teachers, just looking for a way to feed their families, help rebuild the United States. But for a lot of these guys, doing that kind of work was something that they weren't all cut out to do. So a good day was 40 or 50 people getting up, walking off, and losing their jobs. And that was a good day. Imagine what they would have called a bad day. Now, most of the time when people think of the concrete or think of the dam, they think of all that damn concrete. Right? There's a lot of concrete. If you're into construction, I got a number for you. there's 4.5 million cubic yards of concrete. 4.5 million cubic yards. Now, if you're not into construction, I got you covered. There is so much concrete in the Hoover Dam. You could build a 2-lane highway from San Francisco to New York. You could build a 4.5-foot sidewalk around the equator of the Earth. There is so much concrete in the Hoover Dam that for 5 years after the construction was finished, they had earthquakes in the area because the weight of the dam was so heavy.